Welcome to How to Improve at Anything. This video was originally intended for disc golf specific use, but I realized it can be used for literally any skill. This could be from studying for an exam or to rolling jiu-jitsu. Let's get straight into it. Muscle memory is defined as our ability to carry out a motor action without having to think about it. Now, if I want to, let's say, change my putt, first of all, I need to know what I'm actually doing. Usually this will come in the form of filming myself. You can always use a coach, but this is for choosing to learn with just yourself. If I want to change what I'm doing, I need to know what I'm doing first. So I film myself. Let's say I want to change my putt. Film myself doing my putt, and then I need to research. I need to get this is the big information stage. I need to find out what I actually want to change, why I want to change it. So I may say that I want to change it to me pulling up higher and releasing higher. And so this is the difference. I need to actually know what I want to do to change. Before we start learning, we need to pre-frame our learning. We need to be having positive thoughts, and we need to, let's say, believe that we're going to be learning this thing really quickly, and we're going to need to think that it's going to be really easy. If you believe you will have a good time, you will have a better time all of the time than if you think you're going to have a bad time, even if you experience the same stimulus. This is really important. If you pre-frame and you are excited and you are passionate, this is super, super huge for any type of learning. You can increase your engagement, your memory retention, your critical thinking, your perseverance, all of these things if you just pre-frame properly. The people who are best at what they do are the most passionate about what they're doing. The placebo effect is real, and you are in control about how you go about learning. You may wish to gamify your experience, and this can make learning a lot more interesting. And as I said, passion is everything. If you can find a way to get excited about something, you will be so much better at that thing. There's so many people that don't utilize this correctly. The amount of 40-year-old people, roughly, that I speak to that talk about how they're old and they're not as good at learning anymore. And it's all brought on by the fact that you have a stigma that you think you shouldn't be. So to change our habits or our neural pathways, first of all, we need to go really slow. This is because it ensures accuracy in our changes. Second, you need to over-exaggerate. If you did what you thought you were doing, then you wouldn't actually need to change. The reason for over-exaggerating is so that you can recalibrate. But when you're trying to learn something and you're trying to be better at something, you need to make your training, your practice, more difficult than the actual thing that you're trying to do. The more that you work up to training for something harder, the more your level of comfort rises. And so if I train in, let's say, the hardest disc golf course in the world, the other courses will seem easy to me when I've been training there for a while. And so I should always train harder to the point where it's still manageable, but just slightly out of my reach. This is super important. If you want to be the best at anything, you have to make it more difficult in your training. This is what the top NBA players do. This is what the top footballers do. This is what I need to do if I want to be the best player possible. The third point is a mind-muscle connection. You need to pay attention to how this actually feels. This could be physically or mentally, whatever. But if I want to change my form, I need to actively feel the muscles on how these changes are feeling so that I can repeat them without them just being a sequence of learned moves. The more I do this slow, deliberate practice, reforming my neural pathways, the more myelination will occur. This is really important because it affects our coordination and our motor skills. The more myelination that occurs, the better we'll be able to do something. I believe there is a 300-time difference in myelinated cells versus unmyelinated cells in coordination. When forming new motor skills, you need to break down the complicated movement into more easy parts, more manageable parts. For instance, this part, it's very complicated. I've got lots of things going on. So I can, let's say, just do the take back and focus on getting that correctly. I kind of use the stuff mentioned in the previous 30 seconds or a minute to actually get that down properly. And then I need to incorporate isometric or eccentric movements where I'm, let's say, putting. Isometric will be, I'll get to a certain position, I'll hold, and I can check and refer to whether I'm actually doing this correctly, and so I can go out of the motion and then get into this position. Or I can start in a certain isometric position or eccentric. I can go into this position and then slow down in the key part of it, so I can ensure that I'm accurate in that key part. And then the third thing is I need to look into a mirror, or I need to visualize. These two cues are, these two, not necessarily cues, these two actions are absolutely huge. Visualization is super, super important because of the things here, and also looking into a mirror is super, super important for the things here, for when you're actually trying to get this movement down. It's important to include variation with our learning. This could be if I'm practicing playing disc golf and I want to throw an upshot towards a basket. I could say that today I'm going to vary it. I'm going to have to hit this certain point in the sky that I would never usually have to hit and make it go towards the basket. And then I have to deeply process how I'm going to throw this disc on a certain angle so that it goes to the right position that I would never normally do, let's say, because it's not the most effective A to B, or it's not the most consistent, but it's something that makes me vary the movement. And so I actually deeply process how to do it, and I learn adaptive skills instead of just learning specific techniques. Obviously techniques are great, but you have to apply them to real life situations. Differential learning is learning through difference. Your brain literally, when it's learning through difference, every time that you change your let's say your throw to throw a hyzer at this certain point, certain angle that you wouldn't usually do, then your brain, your system wakes up and it has to learn how to do that thing, and so your brain is active. And the more that you can incorporate differential learning into your training schedule, the more that your brain has to be adaptive, and the better it's going to work. I can use dual task learning, which is using cognitive tasks whilst I'm doing a physical motor task at the same time. So if I'm putting, I can do mental math, and it will enable me to actually be able to get that muscle memory down, do the putting really without thinking, because my mind cannot be on it. My mind is not active. And then you've got restraint practice, restraining, I'm going to use that word, let's say a body part, a group of body parts when you're trying to do a motor skill. And this could be to prevent you doing something wrong, or it could be to force you to find new ways to adapt to do that thing. Playing other sports is also a very, very useful and widely used method of improving your own sport. A lot of professional football teams will play basketball or handball. These are really good for coordination and also thinking about tactics in a different way than you may be thinking. It's good to shift the perspective, and this really helped me for when I, let's say, played hockey and then I switched to disc golf. Playing two different sports is a really, really good method. For neuromuscular improvement, you can use things like overload, where you increase the weight in a certain movement. This has slightly less application for disc golf, but I could always, let's say, if I wanted to improve my legs, add ankle weights. As I've seen this done, let's say, in tennis, where then when you're actually playing, it makes it much easier, much smoother to actually perform the movement. You're much better equipped for it. It's the same as going to the gym. The gym is super necessary for disc golf movements. I could go very heavy on what's it called, on cable wood choppers, and that will improve my ability to pull through hard. Contralateral training, where let's say I'm training my right arm, I can then practice with my left and improve, and this has many benefits. The hemispheric lateralization will improve my ability for my actual right side, and it's done this massively in the past. There's also a load of other things in terms of with the brain, that learning on the left hand side, and also for overload in certain sports as well. Learning on the left hand side will take off a lot of the right hand side imbalances, things like that will prevent a lot of injury. Recovery is another huge aspect for actually improving learning. When you have a lot of consistent sleep, so deep and REM sleep, this will consolidate your motor learning better than if you didn't have great sleep. Sleep, as you know, is super important to be consistent and to get a lot of it. And then also non-sleep deep rest has a whole host of benefits. That another super beneficial thing is doing hot to cold therapy. So changing from either cold to hot conditions or hot to cold conditions like a sauna to an ice bath or whatever. There are a few final key points about lifestyle, things that I think make such a huge difference in how much you're able to learn. First of all, your personality, you need to identify as having fluid, someone that doesn't think super black and white, that's able to be shifted very easily. How you live will determine how well you're able to change. You should be going to the gym a lot. This is really good for coordination, and it's also really good for physical strength, mental strength, and health. Super useful. Same thing, your diet should be very low in processed sugar. Processed sugar has been shown literally to affect your cognitive function and your memory formation. And I will link everything that I've talked about, like some peer-reviewed studies on, let's say, muscle memory or sugar, whatever, so you can have a look. If you're out doing a session, you should set timers. Timers are super useful for staying on track and making use of the time that you have. You should be tackling the biggest 20% of things. There's an 80-20 rule, because the biggest 20% of things, the core functionality of whatever you're doing, will have the outsized results of, let's say, 80% of the results. I saw this in a video about learning in school. You should work back from the answers, from the outcome of what you're trying to do. So let's say I'm looking at my textbook, I could be looking at the answers first, because then I can work back. First of all, I know the answers, but I know what they're going to teach me on. And if I'm in sport, I know the outcome result. I need to know where I can finish, and then I can process that in a different way, where I can deeply process the movements that I actually need to do to get from that end position to the start position. And this will help me, that reversal will help me all along the way, knowing what I need to do. The final thing I want to mention is my definition of learning. Learning to me is when you experience the same stimulus, but you have a different output. You have a different response to that stimulus. And if you don't, then you haven't learned, you haven't changed your action. And so you can think about that whenever you're doing something where you're trying to learn. Have you actually learned? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have learned how better to learn. Thank you so much for watching, and peace. The technical process of muscle memory is when myonuclei are formed in cells, and these myonuclei stay in these cells even when these muscles are, let's say, not being used. And so it's not known exactly by how much it decays or whatever over time, but it's known that these myonuclei stay in the muscles. So let's say you were to go to the gym for a year, and then you stayed away for 3 months. When you went back to the gym, even though you may have lost a lot of your initial muscle gain, you will get back 8 times as quickly the muscle that you had previously lost. And this is the same thing for when you are doing, let's say, disc golf practice, and I haven't played in a couple of weeks. It will be rough for the first couple of hours, but I'll begin to get back my muscle memory of what I was doing way quicker than someone that's not actually got to the point of the level that you had been before you left it off.